The first thing we want to do is import a photograph of ourselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File right here on the right. I am going to click Import, and I am going to find the photograph that I took of myself. So it's in my camera roll, and it's right here. I'm going to click Open. And when I get to this part right here, I want to make sure that I open it as a layer. And then from here, I can size it and place it. So if I want to shrink it, because that was clearly too big, I can. If I want to move it to the right, I can. I want to move mine towards the right, and then I'm going to click, I'm going to move it down a little bit, and then I'm going to click OK. So what this has done is it has created a layer with the photo. So if I click on my layers icon, which is right here, it's the sandwich, it's 3 layers. You can see I have a layer 1, which is white, and I have a layer 2, which is my photo. I am going to add another layer. Layer 3 is transparent. These little squares mean that it is a clear, see-through, transparent layer because I'm going to be outlining my photograph on top of the layer of the photo. So make sure that layer 3 is selected. If you draw on this layer, the layer with the photo on it, it's going to cause you problems later when we go to delete that photo because we're not going to keep the photo there. So layer 3 is selected. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select my paintbrush. Right here I have different choices for line styles. So this one is just a dot. This one is a bit more like spray paint. I really like this one because it gives me a little bit more line variety. And then this one is a square. So you decide which one you like. So now what I am going to do is I am going to begin outlining my project. Now, when I have just start outlining, so I'm using a Wacom One tablet plugged into a Chromebook. So you can see my lines kind of wobbly. When you're using a tablet like I'm using, you're drawing on the tablet and looking at the computer. So you can see it's kind of a little tricky to outline. So I'm going to undo all of that. And I'm going to come over here to my stabilizer, and I'm going to collect stabilizer 3. And now it's going to give me just a little bit more control. And I am going to outline my drawing. Now, this is a how to cartoon yourself tutorial. And when we are outlining, it's important that we don't outline every single thing. I don't really like that outline, so I'm going to undo it. So what we use, it's what's called implied line. So this is an incomplete line, but the brain fills in what's missing. So we don't have to draw every single outline because our brain is smart enough to figure it out. The question is, well, what do we outline? So we're going to outline the major details here. Notice I did not outline every single hair. Okay, we don't need to. Our hair as a whole is a shape. So we focus on the primary big shape, and then we put in some of those implied lines that I was talking about. Maybe they look a little bit like that, just to imply that there are multiple hairs. One thing I forgot to do, which will make this a little bit easier, is if I come in here and I select my photo and I'm going to kind of fade it in the background, this helps it so I can see my outline a little bit better. So you can see now that I have the implied line. So once again, make sure that layer 3 is selected. And I'm actually going to shrink the size of my paintbrush just a little bit because another thing we want to think about in addition to implied line is line quality. And line quality is the thinness or thickness of a line. And what that does, what line quality does for us, is it creates more of an illusion of form. So I'm going to use the line quality where I see my shadows. So where the shadows are is where I am going to stick my thicker, darker lines. So if you look at my photo, you'll see this side of the face, the right side is darker, and this side is lighter. So my heavier, darker lines are going to go on this side of the face, and my thinner lines are going to go on this side of the face. So I really don't like how I outline that hand. So I'm going to shrink this just a little bit more, and I'm going to come in here. It also might help when you get into places where it's hard to outline, to zoom in. So if that helps you, and then you can also move the photo with the hand. So I like that much better. And then I'm just going to draw some of these lines. I don't have to draw all of them. I grab the hand, move that up, and then I am going to be leaving out the watch. So as you're outlining, think about what's important. Think about what you want to have versus what you don't want to have. So I'm zooming out so I can see this a little bit better. I'm not going to include every single wrinkle in the shirt. That's not necessary. Now I'm going to zoom back in. So let's talk a little bit more about that implied line. So we definitely are going to use implied line when we are outlining the eye. So we don't want to come in here and outline all of the eye. Then it looks a little weird. It looks like that we're wearing eyeliner or around the entire eye. So we want to get rid of that. And we want to primarily focus on the top of the eye right there. And I'm going to increase the opacity here so I can see it a little better. Make sure layer 3 is selected. And then I'm going to draw the iris and then the pupil. I can go back in and add the highlight later as another layer. So I'm not going to worry about that so much right now. And then for the bottom of the eye, I'm really just going to put my line here because that's where the darker part, you can see that in the photo, it's darker here than it is here. So I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop there. Ladies, something they do for cartoon characters just to symbolize being feminine is they put 2 to 3 eyelashes. This kind of just makes it look kind of girly. Not loving how that looks. I'm also going to come back here and switch this to a 2. I feel like the stabilization I have is just a little bit too much. So now I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to put in a couple of eyelashes. We don't want to draw every single eyelash. That tends to be just a little bit too much. But little eyelashes are good. Now, if we're drawing a boy, what you would do is you would just make that, you would use line quality, and you would make this side just a little bit thicker because that's where the eyelashes are, and we'll stop there. Okay, so I'm going to add just a couple little eyelash wings here. And I like that. So you can see use of implied line here, and then some line quality here with the thicker line for the eyelashes. We do not draw this line right here because this makes us look older or very tired. So unless your person is older or tired, let's leave that out. And then eyebrows are just a shape. Don't overthink the eyebrows either. Once again, we're not drawing individual hairs. That would be crazy. A little crazy there. All right, so there's my eyebrow shape there. And here's my eyebrow shape here. So with the nose, same thing. We don't want to outline the entire nose. We don't want this. We don't want that. That looks funny. I did it quickly, so it looks extra wonky. But even if I had taken my time, we don't want those nose lines. So we want to focus on what's important. So we're using that implied line, incomplete line. I'm going to make it a little darker right here where my nostrils are. And then I'm going to draw this outline here. And I'm going to stop there. I mean, I could put that there, but I feel like that looks a little funny. So I'm going to leave that. And now I have my nose. I also feel like my nostrils are a little bit too big. Unless you see up somebody's nose, you're not really going to see like a tunnel like that. You're not going to see that. So I'm going to keep these nice and small and not put a whole lot of emphasis on that. So there we go. And then for the mouth, I'm going to zoom in a little bit and move this up. We don't outline individual teeth. That tends to also, just like when we outline all of the nose or all of the eyes, that tends to look really funny. I almost always outline the top lip. When we get to the bottom lip, I usually sometimes just put like just a chin line, so to speak, for lack of a better thing to call it. So like right there, just to make it look natural. When we outline the whole lip, so let's say I come in here and I outline this whole thing, it tends to look a little bit like Mrs. Potato Head, or like you're wearing lip liner or lipstick. Which is fine if that's the look that you're going for. But I want something a little bit more natural since I'm not wearing lipstick in this picture. So I am going to kind of look at this and I'm going to put in this line. And then I'm going to stop there. I'm going to leave that so you can kind of see, like you can even see it. Like there's barely any line there. You can't really see the definition of the side of the lip, because the light's hitting it. So you don't necessarily have to put that line in there. So for the teeth, the only thing I really want to do, since this is a cartoon, is put the shadows that are right here. And what that's going to do, especially when I color it in, is it's going to give it the illusion that there are teeth. But once again, we're not going to we're gonna leave that out. So as far as implied line goes, or line quality, excuse me, I haven't really done any of that right now. So you can see it's very much like a color book. Okay, most of the line in this is the same thickness. So I'm going to zoom back in. Remember I told you that over on this side, the right side, there is more shadow. So this is where I'm going to come in and I'm going to increase the brush size to, let's say a 6. Let's see how that looks. I can always erase it. And where the lines are the darkest are definitely the hair, definitely right in here. So I'm going to make this line a little thicker. Let's see. I don't really like the shape of that line. I'm going to come in here. And make these lines just a little bit thicker. And then I maybe might make a little bit of my eyebrow thicker. I might make this a little thicker. I'm going to reduce this just a little bit. Make that a little bit thicker. That a little bit thicker. I'm going to increase it. So you can see I'm kind of playing with the size as well. So there's definitely a shadow here. So I want to darken that. And I want to darken it right here, but then it tapers off to a little bit lighter. And maybe even add a little bit here. So I've got a little bit of line quality now. And you can play with this as long or as much as you want to. So I'm going to kind of it's if anything, you know, slips, you can also come in with your eraser and work your outline that way. So I can come in here and kind of clean up my lines this way, and then maybe reduce this, and then come in here and just kind of smooth that out. And then I had a little dot here, a little slippage of the line here. So you can also make your lines thick and thin there too. So if we go back to, let's pull it this way. We're going to fit to the screen. If we go back to my layers and I completely make this invisible, you can now see my outline, and you can also see what that implied or line quality does for the drawing too. It just gives it just a little bit of an illusion of form, which is a fun little extra thing that you can do to your cartoon character to make it look kind of sort of 3D, give it a little bit more life. So for now, in the next video, we're going to go over how to color this in. But for now, I'm just going to kind of sit with this and get my line quality and my implied line exactly how I want it. Until then, thanks for watching.